In a world without Wi-Fi, without coffee shops, without Netflix, one modern soul dares to go where no influencer has gone before, into the dark, dung-splattered, disease-ridden heart of medieval Europe. Welcome to the year 1327, a time when your breakfast might kill you, your neighbor might accuse you of witchcraft, and your best hope for survival is to die before winter. This summer, one time traveler learns the truth the hard way. You will not last a day in a medieval village. The dream of going back in time. You ever hear someone say, "Oh, I was born in the wrong era?" Yeah. No, you weren't. Trust me. Unless you were born with a strong desire to wear the same underpants for 6 months and die of a toothache before age 30, you were born exactly when you were meant to. Still, there's something romantic about the medieval world, right? Cobblestone streets, knights in shining armor, ladies in flowing gowns, everyone sipping mead under the stars as minstrels play the lute. That's the Instagram version of the Middle Ages. Let me paint you the real one. Let's say, for a moment, you magically wake up in a medieval village. Not a castle, mind you. You're not a royal. You're not a noble. You're not even a squire. You're just you, a commoner. And your name? Something like Wulfgar the Filthy or Alice of the Bog. Let's see how long you last. Wake up and smell the pigs. Your eyes open to the sound of pigs. Loud, aggressive, and, frankly, judgmental pigs. You're sleeping on a mattress stuffed with straw, infested with fleas, and moist from God knows what. There are no sheets. There is no pillow. Your bed is a wooden plank raised off a dirt floor, and your bedroom is the same room your whole family sleeps in. Plus chickens. Oh, and that weird smell? That's your cousin's foot rot. Again, outside, the rooster crows. But you've been up since before dawn anyway because the sound of rats fighting in the thatch roof kept you awake all night. Time to start your day. But first, you need to go to the bathroom. Here's a fun fact. There isn't one. The bathroom is a field. Maybe a bucket. Maybe a hole in the ground if you're lucky. You do your business in the open air, praying the wind is in your favor and no one else from the village comes by mid-squat. There's no toilet paper. You use moss, or if it's winter, you cry. The breakfast of champions. You shuffle back inside and get ready for breakfast. Today's menu? Porridge. Made from barley. With water. Again, it's the same porridge you had yesterday. And the day before. Tastes like sadness and ash. If it's a lucky day, maybe someone found an egg. Not a fresh egg. A weird-smelling, spotted egg from a hen that hasn't laid properly in months. No one asks questions. You eat it. Also, no coffee, no tea, just water, which may or may not have giardia in it, because your only water source is a stream downstream from where people bathe and livestock poop. But hey, at least it's better than beer, which is also your drinking option, since low-alcohol beer is considered safer than the water. So yes, everyone, including children, is slightly buzzed all the time. Welcome to the past. A day in the life of a peasant, aka backbreaking misery. Now that you're full of warm porridge paste and existential dread, it's time to go to work. You are, of course, a serf. That means you don't own anything. Not your hut, not your tools, not even your body, technically. Everything belongs to the local lord. You owe him labor, free labor, for the land you're allowed to work. So you spend your morning in the fields, digging up turnips and spreading manure. The manure is your own. Or the pigs. It's hard to say anymore. You break your back all day using a wooden hoe that splinters every time you sneeze near it. You wear shoes made of burlap and hope the blisters don't get infected. Spoiler, they will. If it rains, you work. If it snows, you work. If you're sick, you work. If your cousin was trampled by a cow and you're the only one who can bury him, guess what? You still work. The Lord doesn't care about your grief. He wants his oats. Oh, and taxes? Yeah. They come in the form of more grain, more chickens, and a portion of your barley mush. If you're caught hiding any of it, you're tied to a post and whipped. Or worse, publicly shamed in the stocks while kids throw cabbage at your head. Danger is everywhere. You may be thinking, okay, that sounds tough, but manageable. Let me stop you there. The Middle Ages were not just inconvenient. They were dangerous. All the time. You could die from stepping on a rusty nail and getting gangrene, eating spoiled meat because refrigeration doesn't exist, drinking bad water as we've established, being accused of witchcraft, especially if you're a woman, you own a cat, or you have a birthmark shaped like anything, getting crushed by a cart because roads are muddy death traps, falling into a well, which happens more than you'd expect, being mauled by wolves, especially in the winter, not to mention diseases. The Black Death is just one celebrity on a red carpet of horrors. There's also dysentery, leprosy, tuberculosis, smallpox, and something called St. Anthony's Fire, which sounds cool but is actually from eating moldy rye and hallucinating yourself into a grave. Oh, and dental care? A joke. You have about 5 teeth left. One is abscessed. It will probably kill you by next week. Evening entertainment. Not as fun as you think. You finish work, your back feels like it's been stomped on by a horse, and you smell like fermented despair. But finally, it's evening. Surely, there's some joy in the village now? Yes. If your idea of joy is listening to someone play a hurdy-gurdy while 3 people drink weak ale and a man with a terrible singing voice wails about a lost sheep. You don't have hobbies. There's no chess set, no books, no paint, and certainly no Netflix queue waiting for you. Only the fire and stories. The same stories, over and over, about a ghost that haunts the mill, about the woman who turned into a goat, about a man who drank from the wrong stream and married a frog. Medieval stories are weird. You can't write. You can't read. Most likely, no one in your entire family has ever seen a written word in their life unless it was on a church wall. Speaking of church, the church is watching you. The church in your village is not just a religious center. It is the moral police, the news network, and the local spy agency rolled into one. You attend mass. You do not ask questions. And you confess everything. You had lustful thoughts about the baker's daughter? To the priest you go. You swore when you stepped in cow dung? Penance. You missed mass because you were vomiting blood? Sorry, not good enough. The priest may declare your illness divine punishment for your sins. Oh, and remember, this is the same priest who may or may not have fathered half the children in the village. But no one talks about that. Everything from what you wear to how you think is monitored. Dance too joyfully? Sinful. Wear bright colors? Prideful. Have an opinion? Heretical. In fact, if you so much as sneeze suspiciously near a shrine, someone might suspect the devil is in you. And in this time period, if enough people agree, your fate is sealed. Which brings us to the justice system. Spoiler. There isn't one. Say someone accuses you of theft, or adultery, or witchcraft. What happens? Well, forget lawyers. Trials are handled by the local lord, the church, or a pitchfork-wielding mob. Proof? Not required. You might be subjected to trial by ordeal. That means you could be dunked into a freezing river. If you float, you're guilty. The water rejects you. If you sink, you're innocent, but also probably dead, burned with hot irons. If your blister heals nicely, you're innocent, forced to walk 9 paces over hot plowshares. If your feet are ruined, but you can still recite the Lord's Prayer perfectly, maybe they'll reconsider. Torture? Common. Executions? Public. Entertainment? Also public. They might hang you, or behead you, or burn you, or tie your limbs to horses and slap the reins. The crowd will cheer, and the kids will ask for your toes as souvenirs. Love and marriage, low expectations. High stench. Let's say, by some miracle, you survive long enough to fall in love. Well, forget dating. Your marriage is arranged. You're paired with someone who owns roughly the same number of chickens as your family. Compatibility is irrelevant. You may be 14. Your spouse may be 42. Welcome to romance. The wedding feast? A dry biscuit and a single dance before your cousin throws up in the punch bowl. Your marriage bed is the same scratchy straw pile you've always had, now just shared with someone else who smells like onions and regret. No contraceptives. No understanding of biology. 9 months later, baby. Unfortunately, the odds of that baby surviving its first year are not great. Roughly half of all children die young. But you keep having them because you need help on the farm. and you hope one will survive long enough to take care of you when you're old, which is 35. Fun fact, by the time you're 40, if you're lucky enough to reach it, your body looks like a bag of tired bones and bad decisions. Winter is not coming. It's already here. Winter in a medieval village is less cozy snowfall and more frozen starvation. Your house has no insulation. Your fireplace smokes more than it heats. You stuff the cracks in the walls with straw. You sleep fully dressed, huddled next to a pig for warmth, and pray no one dies overnight. Food is stored in barrels if you had enough to store. Most likely, you're chewing dry roots and old bread. Meat? Long gone. Vegetables? Only if you pickled them properly. Otherwise, you'll get scurvy. Yes, your teeth might fall out just from a lack of nutrients. Also, remember that medieval people believed illness came from bad smells and evil spirits. Germ theory? Centuries away. You might rub garlic on your chest to cure pneumonia, or bloodlet yourself with leeches, or drink a concoction of wine, dung, and lizard tails. None of it helps. You still die, probably from something called the flux, which just means you pooped yourself to death. Death, disease, and the dark. It's nighttime now. The moon is out. Wolves howl. There are no lights. You have a single candle made from animal fat. The house creaks. The roof leaks. You hear coughing from across the village, and you wonder, will the pestilence come again? Every year something kills someone. A fire, a fever, a famine, a feud. Your neighbor's baby died last week. Your uncle fell into a ditch and drowned. A beggar came into town with boils on his face, and no one has seen him since. The cemetery grows. The village shrinks. The only relief you have is in the occasional festival, where you drink until you fall over and maybe get into a brawl over a wheel of cheese. But even then, you wake up the next morning with frostbite and 3 new fleas in your beard. Modern, you would not survive. Let's be honest. You, with your almond milk preferences, your yoga classes, your smartwatch, your carefully curated Spotify playlist, you would die within hours. You'd pass out from the smell. You'd get arrested for trying to brush your teeth. You'd cry when your iPhone wouldn't charge because there is no electricity. You'd be burned as a heretic when someone saw you wearing deodorant. Medieval life was not rustic and charming. It was nasty, brutish, and short. No privacy.
No antibiotics.
No rights. No shoes with arch support. And that romanticized image of a knight in shining armor? He probably hasn't bathed in 3 months, has dysentery, and just wants your cow. So, still want to time travel? No, you don't. You want to visit a medieval village from behind bulletproof museum glass while sipping a cappuccino and tweeting about it on your phone. And that's okay, because the people who lived through it, they were tough, they were resourceful, they were survivors, and they didn't have a choice. But you, my soft modern friend, you wouldn't last a day in a medieval village. And that's exactly why you should be thankful for every flushable toilet, every warm shower, every dentist appointment, and every fridge that keeps your snacks unmaggoty. Now go wash your hands and hug your Wi-Fi. You're not medieval, and you're better off that way. What you would love in a medieval village, if you could survive. Okay, now that we've dragged your soft 21st century self through mud, plague, and pig poop, let's talk about something unexpected. What if I told you there were things, beautiful, profound, soul-filling things, you'd actually miss when you go back to your espresso machines and Instagram reels? Yes. Amid the cold and cruelty medieval life had magic our modern world has all but forgotten. 1. A life in rhythm with nature.
No alarms. No meetings. No blinking screens.
No emails marked urgent. Your day begins with the rooster's crow and ends when the sky turns dark. You rise with the sun and sleep under a sky bursting with stars, unfiltered by city light. You don't rush. You don't multitask. You live by the seasons, when to plant, when to harvest, when to rest. It's quiet. Birds are your soundtrack. A flowing stream is your playlist. There's no FOMO because the only social network you have is your neighbors. And you know every tree, every bend in the path, every turn of the wind. There is peace in the slowness, something sacred in the silence. You are part of the earth, not separate from it. 2. Community, the real kind. In your modern life, maybe you say hi to your neighbor once a year when you borrow sugar. In a medieval village, your neighbors build your house, raise your kids, and bury your dead. They help you till your land. They help you fight off wolves. They cry with you when your child falls sick, and they dance with you when he survives. Everyone knows everyone. And while that means no secrets, it also means no one is truly alone. Birth, marriage, harvest, death shared. Mourned together. Celebrated together. They may not have words like mental health or trauma, but they have hands to hold, eyes that watch over you, and arms that catch you when you fall. You are never just a number. You are part of something. 3. Work with meaning. You don't sit in a cubicle wondering if your spreadsheet is contributing to the downfall of civilization. You work with your hands. You dig the earth, grind the grain, milk the goat, and see the direct result of your effort. You bake bread and eat it. You build a fence and it protects your cow. You carve a toy and your child laughs. Your work is real, visible, and necessary. And while it's brutal, it's also honest. And that gives you a satisfaction no modern KPI or performance review can match. 4. Simplicity, the underrated luxury. You own 5 items of clothing, a wooden bowl, a spoon, a comb carved from bone, and that's enough. There's no such thing as storage problems or retail therapy. You don't compare yourself to influencers. You don't have an Amazon cart haunting your soul at 3 a.m. You live simply, and oddly, that makes you richer. You don't chase likes. You chase chickens. And there's joy in that. Your priorities? Food, shelter, health, family. You know what matters. You don't have to declutter your life because it's already uncluttered. 5. Food that tastes like it's supposed to. Sure, you don't get pizza delivery, but what you do get is food so fresh it was breathing yesterday. You eat with the seasons. Spring brings wild herbs and eggs. Summer gives you berries and fresh bread. Autumn hands you apples, nuts, and slow-cooked stews. Winter is tough, but you make do with smoked meats, root vegetables, and pickled cabbage. Everything is organic because pesticides haven't been invented yet. Your bread is baked over coals. Your cheese is made by the woman next door. Your ale is brewed with honey and hops from the forest. You don't count calories. You don't binge. You eat when you're hungry. You stop when you're full. 6. Real celebration.
No push notifications. No influencers yelling, celebrate yourself.
When the harvest comes in, you celebrate. When someone gets married, it's not a photo shoot. It's a village-wide explosion of joy. Music, dancing, firelight, roasted animals, jokes that have no punchlines, and a priest who gets tipsy and sings off-key. And it doesn't end in 4 hours with a catering bill. It ends when the candles burn out and someone passes out next to the cider barrel. You celebrate because you survived. Because your neighbor did too. Because the barn didn't catch fire. Because the rains came. Because the baby lived. Joy in the medieval world is hard-earned. But when it arrives, it's deep and raw and holy. 7. Spiritual depth, whether or not you're religious. You look at the stars and they matter. You hear thunder and believe something bigger is out there. You plant seeds and whisper prayers into the dirt. Life feels enchanted. Everything has meaning. A crow's call, twisted root, a child's fever, perfect snowflake. Even suffering, though brutal, fits into a larger story. You aren't numbed by information. You are sharpened by mystery. Your soul isn't fragmented by 1,000 apps. It is tethered to your land, your people, your sky, and your gods, whether you call them Christ or spirits or the old ones. 8. Time to be human. Number 40-hour workweeks. No spreadsheets. No phones. You sing. Not because you're good at it, but because the sky is pink and your goat made it home safe. You carve a whistle out of wood. You make dolls from straw. You mend your clothes not to be eco-friendly, but because you love that shirt and it was your father's before you. You sit. You think. You wonder. You notice the smell of wet grass. You hear the sound of your own breath. You feel your place in the world. like a pebble fitted into a mosaic. The final balance. So, would you still die in a medieval village? Yes, absolutely. Within 24 hours, a rat bite would infect your foot and your own cousin would sell you for 2 cabbages and a rusty bucket. But would there be moments, deep, aching, soul-stirring moments, where you would feel more alive than you ever have in your modern life? Also, yes, the medieval village was cruel. It was chaotic. It was painful. But it was also real, raw, humble, deeply connected. It was life stripped down to its bones. And in those bones was a kind of beauty we rarely taste today. So, would you survive a medieval village? Probably not. But maybe, just maybe, you'd learn something before your tragic and likely embarrassing death. Like the joy of simplicity, the strength of community, the beauty of a life lived by firelight and starlight, not screen light. And if you're still here, congratulations. You've just time traveled through 500 years of filth, fever, and forgotten joy. Now it's your turn. Tell me in the comments, would you trade your Wi-Fi for a well? Your Uber for a donkey? Your microwave for a mud oven? If you enjoyed this wild ride back in time, hit that like button. Not with a medieval mace, please, and subscribe for more history served hot and hilarious. Because the past isn't just behind us, it's waiting to teach us. Don't forget to ring the bell like a town crier with excellent news. And I'll see you in the next story. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and maybe wash your hands. You're not in the 1300s anymore.